All right, welcome to this next class about Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, where we're going through each verse one by one and seeing what the text reveals. We're reading from the Bengali edition of Srila Govinda Maharaj. He prepared it in the time of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, so we're referencing that with regards to any additional comments. And looking at the original text and drawing out particular words and going through verse by verse. Okay, so today we have the text on the screen, a little bit of adjustment, and now we can follow along with everything in front of us. So there we go. Here's the text. So last time in the beginning we've done these first 5 verses of the work. Janu Lambirabujo Kanakavadato, verse 1, and then 2. We got up to verse 5 last time around. So we're starting up with now the Bengali verses which introduce the work here. Starting with verse number 6, which is this one here. So we'll begin here and we'll go into the meaning of what needs to be explored as we go through and see how far we get today. Adya Sri Chaitanya Priya Goshtira Charane Ashesh Prakare Mor Danda Paraname. Right, so Adya, Adi means in the beginning. So first off, what am I doing? I'm offering Danda Paraname. So Paranam is a little bit of a poetic construct to match the meter, and it means pranam. So you kind of know pranam. Pranam means to give, like namaste, and it needs to give respect, to give honor to others. So sometimes they'll say pranam, sometimes in the poetry you'll see paraname. It's the same meaning, or paranam. Danda means a stick or a rod, right? So danda, like we have most commonly, we think of danda in terms of the sannyasis or renunciates of our lineage, right? Danda meaning they're carrying a stick, right? Danda means stick or rod, okay? So it's like traditionally sannyasis would carry a danda, means a rod, a stick. And the rod kind of represents their firm determination on the absolute. Now, traditionally, the danda of the sannyasis, because up until recent history, most sannyasis were in the impersonal lineages. So then the danda would be one stick, and that would represent the oneness of Brahman, which they were dedicated to, giving their life to, and they were in that meditation and they were carrying that stick around, and it had that one-pointed focus of oneness in Brahma and the Brahman, and they were carrying that vow around, right? And in that sense, the vow to stay free of the duality of this world, right? From duality to oneness. That was their vow, that was their practice, etc. Right? And this has been quite common for centuries through India, because the most recent the recent tradition of many lineages of India coming from the time of Shankaracharya was this sannyas path in the line of the oneness conception of the absolute, right? And so all these different sannyas lineages tended to be in that line. And you can see that also in Mahaprabhu's pastimes, and we'll see that as we go through the story here, that a lot of the sannyasis he encountered, we say sannyas for renunciate, it's the sannyas nyas means renounce, and san means full. So sannyas in Sanskrit literally means full renunciation. So traditionally, sannyas, full renunciation, meaning of the world, meaning focus on Brahman with the one danda. Most of the sannyasis that Mahaprabhu encountered throughout his travels were these sannyasis, right? Keshava Bharati, for example, was in this lineage, carrying the one danda. Prakashananda Saraswati, another example, a sannyasi and they call it ekadanda, right? Ek meaning one danda, one stick representing impersonal Brahman, oneness, and the focus of the practitioner on that meditation, right? More recently than that, and particularly in relation to the modern expression of the Gaudiya Vaishnava lineages, and particularly this was something that was started by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who essentially was the main person sharing and distributing the modern era Gaudiya Vaishnava presentation. He introduced this idea of sannyas into his society in Gaudiya Math back in the 1920s. When he introduced it, he made an adjustment, and instead of there being one danda, ekadanda, he introduced what was called tridanda, 3 dandas, right? And so in our lineage, you'll see tridanda sannyas, as you can see in the calendar when some renunciates' names are mentioned because they were very great servitors in the lineage. It says Tridandi Swami. Tridandi Swami means a sannyas who has this tridanda staff, right? The rod is there, but it's 3 rods tied together, okay? And rather than the focus being on merging with oneness in Brahman, the focus of the tridanda sannyas is that the dedication will be there of the thoughts, the words, and the actions, right? They say in Bengali, kai mon vakya, right? Kai meaning what you say, mon meaning your mind, your thoughts, and your actions. Actually, vak means words, so kai will mean actions. Kai mon vakya. So and that makes sense too. Ka as in karma, what you do, right? What you do, what you say, and what you think, all in alignment and all dedication to the divine, right? And in the Tridanda Sannyas line of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, that means service to the Absolute, right? And in that service, the mind, the speech, and the actions are all engaged. And there is no space for any action, speech, or thought outside of what is being given in service to the divine, right? And that's the vow that's taken by the sannyasis in this particular line, and they take the tridanda sannyas, the 3 sticks, right? So in this case, we have danda paranami. What does danda paranami means? It means lying down like a stick on the ground. So you can say that when you offer respect, the greatest level to offer respect means to bow down flat. So you can see here Vrindavan Das Thakur, he is seeing Mahaprabhu, Chaitanya Dev, and Nityananda Prabhu. These are the greatest of great personalities, with the greatest of great gift. So then to respect them means to give them the most respect possible. So the fullest respect will be what's called, in other words, is called dandavat, right? Dandavat pranam. Danda means down as a stick, means fully lying down flat on the floor. That is full surrender, that is fully bowing down. And that is dandavat pranam or danda paraname, same thing. Okay. So Vrindavan Das starts the work with some glories, and then as he gets into it in Bengali, it's first of all fully bowing down. And to who? Sri Chaitanya Priya Goshtir Charane. Okay, so Goshtir means group, right? And Priya Goshti means the beloved group. The beloved group of Chaitanya means Chaitanya's servitors, his followers, his associates, and himself, right? So Mahaprabhu and his whole entourage, because we know that the Lord comes with his entourage. So Chaitanya Priya Goshtir, the Lord and his whole entourage of servitors, Danda Paranami, Dandavat Pranam, to their charan, right? Charan means their feet, right? So again, the greatest respect will be given by bowing at someone's feet, not bowing at their head. Right? And that example is also nicely shown in the history of what's called Mahabharat. Right? Mahabharat is a great history of India. Bharat was the original word of that whole The original name of that whole land of the subcontinent was called Bharat, Bharatvarsh, right? The land of Bharat. And that particular area had a great history, which they call Mahabharat. Bhagavad Gita, for example, is one small section out of the great history of Mahabharat, which talks about the whole dynasty and the whole story of all the lineages that culminated in Krishna coming to this world. And it wound up about 5,000 years ago, but it goes for many, many centuries before that. And there are many, many stories and histories in that book. Particularly in this respect, the story that's referenced or remembered is when the war was becoming more and more inevitable. And the two great warriors, one from each, kind of representing each party, one of them was Arjuna and one of them was Duryodhana, right? So Arjuna and Duryodhana were like the two chief warriors on opposing side, like the captains of the two teams that were coming to battle with each other. And at a certain point, while all the diplomacy was happening around, maybe we can avoid this war, the two of them came to see Krishna. And when they came to see Krishna, the story is told that Duryodhana went straight to his face while Arjuna stayed at his feet. And so, there's that tendency of, levels of respect within the culture of this particular tradition, right? This is something of Vedic culture. So the stronger the respect for someone, and more the tendency to stay at the feet. Whereas if you see them as an equal or a combatant or someone you're facing off against, you go to the face, you go to the head, right? So this adjustment is kind of naturally embedded in the whole culture. Sort of like face to face with your brothers, at the feet of your elders, right? And then those junior to you at your feet. And this is the natural tradition. So you'll often see when someone's giving respect that the word pada or charan is also included there, because pada and charan both mean the feet of someone or something. And it's also considered the feet is the least part of the person, the lowest part, another colloquial type of a meaning. Again, there's a lot of subtle, higher relevance to all of this. It can often get misunderstood in a more literal context in the modern world. So it's better to keep it in the context of this original culture where it comes from. Right? So charane and praname. And you'll notice too, the ending lines of these Bengali couplets will usually either exactly rhyme or closely rhyme. Okay. So, verse 7. Tabe Vanda Sri Krishna Chaitanya Maheshwar Navadipa Avatar Nam Vishwambara. Right? Tabe, then. Bando. So Bando is like Bande. I worship, I bow down. Who do I bow down to? Sri Krishna Chaitanya, that's Mahaprabhu. Maheshwara. Right? So Maheshwara means Maha Ishwara. Right? Maha, the A, becomes an E when it runs into the I of Ishwara. So Maheshwara is like supreme controller. Often there's a name given to Shiva. So Maheshwara is a title more than a person's name. And it can be attributed. Okay, Maheshwara is Shiva because he's the supreme controller of material energy and the material world in this domain. So he's Maheshwara. Mahaprabhu is ultimate Maheshwara, supreme controller of everyone and everything as the original source, right? Maheshwara. Navadipa Avatar, so he has appeared, Avatar, in Navadip, right? Navadip Dham, which is also manifest in India, north of Calcutta. He's appeared with his Dham there in that place, and his name is Vishwambara. So Vishwambara was one of the names he was given as a child. He had many names, right? Nimai Pandit was one name. Nimai was like his kind of birth name because he was born under a neem tree. Vishwambara, another one of his names, and we covered that last time. This idea of Ambhara means guardian, protector, overseer, maintainer, supporter of Vishva. Vishva meaning the universe and all the entities within it. So he is sustaining and maintaining all these living entities within the universe. Right. So this is we have written out some translations. I'll just go straight to the verses and we'll talk about the verses directly. Verse number 8. Amar Bhaktera Puja, Ama Hoite Boro, Se Prabhu Vede Bhagavate Koila Dara. Okay, so what's being emphasized in this little part of the text is the importance of the devotee. Right, so Vrindavan Thakur is starting out and saying Mahaprabhu is Maheshwara, he's the great. But also Nityananda Prabhu is really important. And also all the devotees, the Goshti, the group around Mahaprabhu is also extremely important. And then he starts to quote these verses which are actually from, this quote coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's coming from a section called the Uddhava Gita, where Krishna's discussing philosophy and explaining reality to Uddhava. Very nice section of Bhagavatam. And this quote's coming from that part. So first of all, he kind of quotes the meaning with the Bengali couplet, and then he actually says, Mad Bhakta Puja Jadika Sarvabhuteshu Manmati. That's actually the verse that Krishna says, and it's quoted directly from Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what he says in that discussion with Uddhava. And what he's saying here is that basically worshipping devotees is greater than worshipping me. Right? Amar Bhaktira Puja, my worship of my Amar Bhaktas, devotees, worship of my devotees, people who are devoted to me, is better than, boro, greater than, hoite is essentially the verb to say more than, or the preposition or the construct to say more than, ama, my, right? So, or doing it for me. Worship my devotees is greater than worshipping me, right? Which we see in many places in scripture, and he's emphasizing that here. And Vrindavan Das is introducing this idea because he really wants to emphasize that we cannot go straight to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without also honoring and serving his devotees, and actually holding the worship and serve his devotees as even greater than himself. Because if you don't have that respect for the devotees, there's no way to get real connection to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? So interestingly, he's starting off the whole work saying devotees are really important, which if you go and look in Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a section where Mahaprabhu says that this is a quality of a middle stage devotee, not a beginner, right? The beginner level devotee is all about God, and I'm going to God, or all about Mahaprabhu, all about Krishna, and it's my service to Krishna, and very focused around that. That's the beginner stage. The middle stage comes where there's actually respect, love, care, and worship, and honor, and service energy given to the devotees with the awareness that the Lord considers that to be greater even than directly serving him. Right? So this idea is being introduced right at the beginning of the work here. Say Prabhu Vede Bhagavata Koiladara, right? So this is the deep meaning that is actually expressed through the Vedas, through Bhagavat, meaning Srimad Bhagavatam. This is what's actually expressed there if you read deeply into the meaning of those works. And essentially, these are the supreme works. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered like it's called like Nigama Kalpatarur. That's the third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, this is the ripened fruit. If all the Vedas was a tree, and they all got together to produce one fruit, the Srimad Bhagavatam is that fruit. And so, it's described that fruit is then tasted. It's tasted by Shukadev as he describes it, and then it's handed to Parikshit Maharaj, and he also experiences that. And anyone who reads that Bhagavatam in that shelter of Shukadev and his explanation, as handed to him by Vyasadeva, the author himself, who is his father, they will taste that fruit. And it's the fruit that is the final conclusion of all Vedic scriptures. All Vedic text is coming to this fruit point, right? And what is that? One of those particular points is divinity comes with an entourage. And you cannot access divinity without the entourage. And actually, if you serve and worship the entourage, you prove to divinity that you are qualified to have connection of divinity. Whereas if you just want to go straight and direct and push everyone else out of the way, then divine himself, herself, don't consider that to be such a great thing. They will accept, but it's not the greatest in their eyes. Right? So this is the thing, we may have many ideas in our own mind about what the greatest thing is. This is where we can access scriptures and the words of Krishna himself, Mahaprabhu himself, saying, I consider this the greatest. And then we can take that on board, we can listen to that, and we can adjust according to that. Okay, so Eteke korilage bhakti ravandan atoyevache karaja siddhira lakshan. In Bengali they'll say lakhan, right? So K with the S, the dot underneath. In Bengali they'll say lakhan. It's just the way they pronounce it in modern Bengal. In Sanskrit, the same word or the same syllable will be ksha. So there's just slight dialect difference. So he's saying here, eteka korila. So therefore, first of all, what am I doing? Kori is the verb to do. First, age, I do vandan, prayers, and worship to the bhaktas, the devotees. So first of all, I worship the devotees. Because then, atayev, ache karya siddhira lakshan means my work, karya is the work I'm doing. And what's the work he's doing? He's writing the scripture. Then that scripture will do what? It will take on great qualities. Siddhi. Siddhi means perfection. Literal meaning of siddhi means perfection, some perfection. They often talk about siddhis. Oh, this great yogi has so many siddhis. It's like perfections. They've perfected the art of doing a certain thing. And that might be relocation. It might be fire in the palm of the hand. It might be, there's so many siddhis. And different perfections of different yogic paths that result in different achievements, right? So in this sense, he's talking about the perfection of the work. It will have what? All kinds of great qualities. Lakhan means qualities. So like ornaments. It will have so much beauty in its presentation because it has first been done by worship and glorification of the devotees, right? So he's expressing how important that is and how great one's works and one's endeavors become and how much beautiful qualities one's endeavors have if that honoring and respect has first happened in that way. Ishtadeva Vandamora Nityananda Rai Chaitanya Kirtispure Jaha Kripai. Okay, so you'll also notice here often when we chant the Bengali verses, if there's an A on the end of the word, we often leave it out. It's a very common thing in Bengal. The A on the end of a word is dropped. It's not said. Okay. Ishtadeva. So what is Ishtadeva? Ishtadeva means, in a sense, the Lord of the heart. Right? So what is the worshipable Lord? What form does the Lord take? Or you could say, what form does the divine take that is really the form that my own heart is most attracted to, that loves the most, that is really honoring the most and worships and cherishes the most? That's called Ishta Deva. You can have Ishta Devi as well. Like Deva and Devi, they're not separable actually. This is the thing, you can say Deva, but Deva automatically means Devi's present, right? The feminine, the Shakti, the potency, the consort will always be there serving the Deva. Always. So, Ishta Deva, who is that heart's worshipable form of the divine. And in Vrindavan Das Thakur's case, right, he's speaking for himself because he uses the word Mora. Mora means my. And what's he doing? Vandan. Again, Vande. So I bow down and worship to my Ishtadeva, my most worshipable form of divinity in my heart, and that is Nityananda Prabhu. And sometimes Nityananda is referred to as Nityananda Rai. Rai being like illuminated, beautiful illuminated personality, Rai. Nityananda Rai, he's often called Nityananda Rai. That's another way that his name is said, right? So what he's really getting to here is actually the worship of Nityananda, right? And the reason he's doing that is because Nityananda is his Gurudev. So obviously when we start any service life, any endeavor, we're going to focus on Gurudev. And so what Vrindavan Das Thakur is setting the scene here is saying Mahaprabhu is glorious, and then my service connection to Mahaprabhu is going through my Gurudev, and my Gurudev is Nityananda Rai. So he's my Ishtadeva, and as it says in the scripture, he's devoted to Mahaprabhu, and so worship of him is greater even than worshipping Mahaprabhu directly. So he's providing some philosophical ground for him to go straight to Nityananda Prabhu and go, all glories to Nityananda. Now, some joke is there in Bengal about how some people kind of jokingly refer to this book as the Nityananda Bhagavat, because there's large sections of the work that are really about the glories of Nityananda Prabhu, more so than the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the mood of Vrindavan Das Thakur, and this is how he's expressing the work and how he feels is appropriate to share. Obviously, we need to go through Nityananda Prabhu to connect to Mahaprabhu, and he wants to really emphasize that point. And so that's his own life path and also how he presents everything to us. So here he's saying, Chaitanya Kirti, the glories of Chaitanya, spure, manifest, jahar, by his kripa, mercy. Right? So by the mercy of Nityananda, the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu become manifest in this world. Without Nityananda Prabhu, no one understands how glorious Mahaprabhu is. Right? Nityananda is the personality who's making that revelation to everybody. We need Nityananda Prabhu to help us to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna combined, and they're in a very private mood and in a very closed, in a sense, closed mood in their own relationship with each other. Right? So in order to get access to that very private relationship they have with each other, Nityananda Prabhu is necessary. And so this is the channel that's being presented. Sahasravadana Banda Prabhu Balaram Jaha Sahasramukhe Krishna Jashodam. Right, so now he's referencing one of the expansions or avatars of Nityananda Prabhu. And he's also referencing the fact that Nityananda is Balaram. Right, so Nityananda and Balaram are exactly the same personality. In Krishna Leela, he appears as Balaram. In Mahaprabhu Leela, he appears as Nityananda. Right? In Ram Leela, he comes as Lakshman. Right? So in each pastime arrangement, all the personalities who are also participating there, and in Balaram, Nityananda, Lakshman's case, he's in all of these as Krishna's first expansion, brother and closest associate. So as Balaram in Krishna Lila, now he's coming as Nityananda. And what is one of his forms is Sahasravadan. Now, Vadan means face or mouth. Sahasra means thousand or thousands. So which form of Nityananda? Balaram has thousands of faces, and that is Ananta Shesh. Right? So there's a form of Balaram, Nityananda, who sits on the underneath reality, you could say. Like all the material universes are said to sit on top of his heads. And he has unlimited heads, or they say hoods, because he's a snake. He's a snake with unlimited heads, and you often see these depictions with all these snake heads. And the universe is sitting on top of their heads, like mustard seeds is how it's described. Not even feeling that they're there. Universes on his head, not even feeling them. That's how powerful Balaram is, Nityananda Prabhu. So thousands and thousands of heads, and on top of them all these universes sit. And what's he doing with all these vadanas? Right? What is the vadan? The face. What does it have? It has a mukh. The mukh means a mouth. So Jaha Sahasra Mukh. With the thousands of mouths he has on these thousands of faces, he is chanting Krishna Yashodam, means the glories of Krishna. How great is Krishna? Right? He's doing that activity constantly. Always chanting the name, the pastimes, the qualities, the associates and all of the different activities, and everything about Krishna that there is to know about Krishna. Always chanting these things. Maharatna Tuijena Mahapriyastane Jasharatna Bhandar Shri Ananta Bodhane. Right. So this whole in a sense, expression of the glories of Krishna here is described like a bandara of ratnas, which means like a storehouse of gems, like a treasury. It's like we've got the big treasury protected by this Anantashesh snake with thousands of hoods, and he's holding in that all the gems and jewels that are the glories of Krishna. And one by one, he's revealing them and chanting those glories. But this is an unlimited thing, right? Ananta Vadane. So it doesn't matter how many mouths he has to chant them, cannot actually cross over all of these glories, all of these wonderful qualities, right? But this is his eternal position, right? His eternal beloved position, Mahapriya Sthane. Stan means place, his place in reality. His great place, Mahapriya Sthane, is to hold the storehouse of these qualities and to chant them with all of his mouths. Right? And this is his own great quality, is that he does this. Atayevage Balarame Mera Stavan Karle se Mukesh Pure Chaitanya Kirtan. Okay, so Atayev, therefore, first, Age, I give some description and glories, Stavan. Stavan means like poems or prayers or stotras or stanzas describing Balaram, right? So he's saying, first of all, I'm going to give stanzas describing Balaram because he is responsible for us having a revelation or the revelation of, right, Spure, Mukhe Spure, revealing from his mouth everything about Chaitanya, Chaitanya Kirtan. So first I offer prayers to Balaram Nityananda because from his mouth is actually where all the descriptions of Chaitanya have their origin and all the appropriate and correct and right ways that Chaitanya is revealed to the world. That's all coming from Nityananda. Because there are many false presentations about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those are not coming from Nityananda, Balaram, or Sahasra Vadan, right? Anantashesh, right? These personalities only deal in truth, not the mental perspective of this world, right? So first there'll be some stanzas about Balaram. Okay. Sahasrika Panadhara Prabhu Balaram Jateka Karaye Prabhu Sakala Uddam. Right, so this is the thing about this form of Balaram, Anantashesh, right? Thousands and thousands of hoods upon which everything is sitting. That is how powerful. Uddam means power, right? So he's expressing how powerful is Balaram? He has thousands and thousands of hoods upon which all these mustard seed universes are sitting. That's how powerful. You think this universe is big? This is a small universe. This universe Brahma has 4 heads only. There are universes with 1,000-headed Brahmas, which have 1,000-fold size per dimension in relative to this universe. Even a universe like that, sitting on Anantashesh's, one of his hoods, one of his heads, out of thousands of heads, sitting on it like a mustard seed that he barely notices. Can't even feel it. Oh, there was a universe there. Didn't notice. That is the Uddam. That is the power of Balaram. Right? It's inconceivable actually to the Jiva just how powerful is Balaram. Just how powerful is Nityananda Prabhu. Inconceivable. And then what's more amazing is that in this age, Nityananda comes and begs the Jiva, begs the fallen soul, oh please take to the Kirtan of Mahaprabhu. Please accept his teachings. He who has the power to hold a universe on his head like a mustard seed and not even notice it is coming and begging each individual fallen soul, Jiva, please take this gift. It's very amazing. Haladhara Mahaprabhu Prakanda Sharir Chaitanya Chandrera Yashomatta Mohadhir. Right, so Balaram's usual form, you can say, Prakanda Sharir, is Haladhara, right? He's holding the plough. That's his position. In this case, Mahaprabhu, Prabhu meaning Prabhu Balaram, the great Prabhu Balaram holds his plough, and that's his position. right? And what is he doing in this particular role now? He is focused on the yasho, the glories, the fame, the greatness, and exposing those glories of Chaitanya Chandra. Right? So Balaram has come in Chaitanya Leela to take on the role of distributing how great is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Mahaprabhu is very much preoccupied with his Leela. So Balaram comes to go, well, you're busy with your Leela, I'm going to broadly distribute this to everyone while you're doing it. And afterwards, through my disciples, the Vyasa avatars, Vrindavan Das and Krishna's Kaviraj, and then with all the followers after that. Through that, I'm going to distribute everything, and I'm going to reveal to the world all these glories while you have your pastimes. This is Nityananda Prabhu's position. This is what Balaram is doing. So Balaram cannot enjoy independently of Krishna, right? He cannot function separate to Krishna, right? He's fully dedicated to Krishna. Number one, servitor. Number one, expansion, right? So his focus is like that. Even though he has all of this power and all this strength, in many ways that's come to him from Krishna. So he then turns around and wants to give that in reciprocal love as a service, right? This is real love. Real love means love reciprocation. I have some capacity, I'm going to reciprocate with that, with love. And that is what the Lord's looking for. What Krishna Mahaprabhu is looking for from the jiva is to reciprocate with our little bit of energy, with love, to give and reciprocate. And by doing that, many amazing things can happen. Tatadika Chaitanyara Priyanahiyar Niravadi Se Dehe Karina Bihar. Okay, so Niravadi means without, right? And Se Dehe, without this form, he's not able to do this great work, right? Karina Bihar, right? So this is the thing. Balaram has this form in order to do all this great work of distributing Chaitanya everywhere. And without the grace, without being the beloved, Priya Nahiyar, without being that beloved to Chaitanya, then it wouldn't be possible for him to do this as well, right? So he has this unique position as being, Priya means dear. So this is the thing about dear. There is a situations like dear most beloved, right? The most beloved has the most access and then can give most exposure. So Balaram has that position. Nityananda is in that position where he is so dear to Mahaprabhu that he can most widely distribute Mahaprabhu's glories and qualities, etc. Tahara charitra jeba jane shunegai, Shri Krishna Chaitanya tare paramasahai. And by doing it, by doing this distribution, he becomes parama, greatly, sahai, satisfied, right? This is his great satisfaction. His great satisfaction isn't, I've come here as Nityananda and I'm going to have a great time with my cowherd friends. I'm going to do my thing. No, his great satisfaction is to share charitra, the stories, the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. Right. And also this verse is saying too that whoever hears these glories of Balaram, Tahar Charitra, his pastimes. So if you listen to the pastimes of him, Tahar in this case meaning Balaram, Jeba, who, Jane Shune Gai. Shune means listening and Gai means chants. Jan means person. So whichever person, Jeba Jane, listens to and chants these glories of Balaram, that person satisfies greatly Mahaprabhu himself, right? So Nityananda is satisfied greatly by doing it, but then here Vrindavan Das is saying actually Mahaprabhu is greatly satisfied if someone will hear how great is Balaram and how great is Nityananda. So then that further gives, in a sense, inference to him saying, well, I'm going to do some stabhana, some verses about Balaram here. Because actually, those who listen to those verses and chant those verses, Mahaprabhu really loves them. Mahaprabhu is very satisfied by such a person who talks about Nityananda, who talks about Balaram, who listens to what he does and how he acts and everything that he's doing. Right? So further emphasizing this stream that he's in around Balaram. Mahaprita hoy tare Mahesh Parvati, Jivaspurare tara Shuddha Saraswati. Right, so here Shiva and Parvati are indicated, right? Mahaprita hoy tare Mahesh Parvati. So Mahesh means Shiva and Parvati is his consort, Parvati Devi. Jivhai is the tongue. Jivai Spurai, again, sprouting from the tongue, means chanting. Ta Shuddha Saraswati, right? So Mahaprita means with great love. So with great love, Shiva and Parvati also are speaking about how great is Balaram. And their discussions about how great he is are like Shuddha Saraswati, means pure sound vibration, right? That's completely purifying to everyone that hears it, right? So not only are these glories being relished by the devotees, even Shiva and Parvati love to talk about how great is Balaram. And obviously, of course, how great is Mahaprabhu too. Balaram Nityananda. Parvati Prabriti Navar Buddha Narilaya Sankarshana Puja Shiva Upasakoya. This is a very mysterious and interesting verse, right? So it's talking about the associates, the Prabriti, the circle of Parvati Devi. Right? All these Narigon. Narigon means ladies. So there's lots of ladies in this circle who are accompanying Parvati Devi, right? She has her entourage. And she has her entourage and they are attending to Shiva, right? Naturally, because he's her master. Then what is Shiva doing? He is doing puja of Sankarshan. And Sankarshan is actually one of the first expansions of Balaram. And it's said that Sankarshan is in the heart of Shiva. Right? Shiva's Ishta Devata is Sankarshan. Right? This is a very subtle esoteric topic, but simply to say that Krishna is the first manifestation. His first expansion is Balaram or Nityananda, right? Same. Balaram's then next expansion is called Chaturvyuha. Okay, Chatur meaning four. Four personalities come directly out from Balaram once he's then first established, right? One of those four is called Sankarshan. Sankarshan's position is to basically maintain and manage and take care about the spiritual world, right? There's very nice lectures of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he talks about how Sankarshan and Yogamaya are working together to make the whole spiritual world function. Because Sankarshan is the manager, master, protector, overseer, and Yogamaya is the ingredients and the Shakti and the potency, providing everything that's required. So they're working together doing that, right? And he says Balaram consorting Yogamaya, really it's the Sankarshan aspect. So Shiva, I mean, in many ways you could say Shiva has this role of being the master of Maya in this world, right? Organizing, coordinating, overseer, the overseer of material world, because Maya Devi, she is material world personified. So Shiva's holding Sankarshan, that higher divine aspect coming from Balaram, whose role it is to oversee spiritual domain. So he's holding that Deva in his heart. Because in a sense they have a similar role, one in the transcendental plane, one in the material plane. Of course, Shiva is eternal. He's not saguna. He has some roles in the material energy, but he remains in his transcendental position. And then, that Ishtadevatara there is that him holding that worship in his heart so then that he can carry out his service, which is, in this sense, there's many services, but one of them in this position is to oversee his consort Parvati as she is taking care about all of the requirements of this world. Panchaskandere Bhagavata Katha Sarva Vaishnavera Vandya Balaramagata. So Panchaskander means the fifth section. So the fifth section of Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, fifth canto of Bhagavatam, there's a long description around all of this, about how great is Balaram. So he's just mentioning it. Oh, go and check the fifth skanda. There you'll find all kinds of descriptions. Sarva Vaishnaver, all the devotees, Bandya, Balaram Gata. Gata again is glories, like Kirti. And Vandya like Vande. Everyone is bowing down to and respecting the fact that Balaram has these qualities, these great qualities. And then what do we find there? Taras Krida Kata, Paramayudha Rindavane Gopisane Korila Vihar. So what he's mentioning here is that Balaram also has a Rasa Leela. Right, and this is a very esoteric topic. Okay, so Krishna's Rasa Leela is very famous. Let's call it the Rasa Leela. It's celebrated and remembered on the full moon day in Kartik month, right at the end of, it's usually November. November each year is the end of the month of Kartik on the full moon. If you look in the calendar, it says Rasa Leela of Sri Krishna, right? So that day is considered the remembrance day of that pastime, or the anniversary, how you'd like to call it. Srila Govinda Maharaj installed the deities in Vrindavan on that day in 1999, right? So, yes, that festival's on that day. Now, not only does Krishna have a Rasa Leela, but Balaram has one too. And then there is, kind of some mystery around that. And what's revealed, and it's revealed in the descriptions describing these verses, is that Balaram has a set of gopis just like Krishna has a set of gopis. And he plays with his gopis in a Rasa Leela. The thing about Balaram's Rasa Leela is that whole pastime, he's doing it for the pleasure of Krishna in his heart as a servitor. He's not enjoying with those gopis separately. He's actually doing it, and in a sense, Krishna's enjoying with them through Balaram's heart. This is a very mystical thing, but this is actually the pure mood of the servitor, is that they'll do an activity and with full love, and then the Lord will enjoy their endeavor through their heart. Right? This is not something you can understand in the mind. It's something that's felt in the heart and felt in the pure heart. So, it's described that way, that actually this is not a question of separate interest, but rather a question of Balaram doing this pastime for the pleasure of Krishna. Dui Masa Bashanta Madhava Madhuname Haryadya Rasa Krida Kahaya Purane. Right, so it's described that during these 2 months, Dui Mas Bashanta, so there's 2 months that are in Basanta. Basanta means spring. Right, so there's 6 seasons in India, 6 seasons in the pastime of Krishna. And the 6 seasons run for 2 months each. Right, and you'll see that even today. There is 2 months of winter, 2 months of summer, 2 months of autumn, 2 months of spring. And then there's 2 extra sets of 2 months. One of them being like the rainy season, and then one of them being kind of late summer, shall we say, or a second autumn. It's like an extra autumn and a rainy season, as well as the other 4 seasons. So you get 6 seasons with 2 months each, and that makes 12 months. Bashanta, which is spring, which is in our relativity happening around February and March. February and March is Bashanta. And you'll notice that in the calendar. Just a few days ago, we had the festivals called Basanta Panchami. Right? That's considered the first day of spring. Basanta being spring. So Panchami means the 5th day. So the 5th day of that month, Basanta, is Panchami. So we're actually seeing Madhava and Madhu months. Madhava and Madhu are the 2 names of the months, and it says here Name, so they're names. There's 2 months in spring. One is called Madhava, one's called Madhu. That's what this Dui Mas Basanta Madhava Madhunami means. Halayuddha, the plough holder, that's Balaram. Rasa Krida, Rasa Leela. Krida means play. So Krida and Leela is interchangeable. Kahaye Purane. So it says in the Puranas, which are like the Vedas, like the spiritual descriptions, or Puranas are like commentaries on the Veda. It says there, these 2 months is when Balaram's doing this activity. So Krishna's Rasa Leela is in Kartik, late November. Balaram's Rasa Leela is in Bashanta, in spring, in February and in March. Right? Se sakala shloka e shuno bhagavate, Sri Chaitanya shuna raja parikite. So he's saying here, all of these verses, Se sakala shlok e shuno bhagavate. So this is all described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Shukadev Goswami, who speaks the Bhagavatam, Kohen means to speak, he spoke it and Shune listened to Parikit Maharaj. Parikit, the king, Raja Parikit. So King Parikit, he was the listener. So we know there's this great history where Parikit Maharaj had 7 days to live because he was bitten by a snake. He approaches all the rishis and sages, what do I do? How do I perfect my life? I've only got 7 days. And they all eventually decide that Shukadev's the best person to see in regards to finding out the truth of spiritual life. And so that's where the delivery of Shukadev of the Bhagavatam to Parikit Maharaj happened over those in that period of time. And that's commonly understood as the kind of most well-known presentation. There were many presentations, but that was kind of the most famous and well-known one. Because there were rishis in that assembly who then repeated it later on to other assemblies. It was that wonderful, like Sutta Goswami's a classic example of that. So this is the thing, great sage, only takes one sage to be present in a meeting, and then later on he can have a whole assembly and express the same thing again, because also these sages and saints and rishis they remember everything they hear. They don't forget. So they can sit for days in an assembly, remember every verse that was said, every topic that was said, and they can sit and then in future repeat the whole thing. This is one of their qualities, you could say siddhis. So they're doing that. So yeah, here Vrindavandas Thakur is saying, go and reference Srimad Bhagavatam. All the verses are there, all the descriptions are there, you can hear more about it there. I'm just briefly mentioning it and giving you the reference. And then he quotes one of the verses from there. Dvo maso tatracha vatsin madung madavang evacha ramaksha paso chapaso bhagavan gopinang rating avahan. So this is the same meaning as what we've said before. Dvo maso, these 2 months, this is what's happening. Okay. And then he also quotes a few more verses from that section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Purna Chandra Kalamrishte Komudi Gandhavayuna Yamano Bhavane Reme Sevite Sri Ganarbita Upagiyamano Gandhavayar Baneta Shovimandale Reme Karenu Yutesho Mahendra Eva Varanaha Nadurdundavayo Byomni Pravashu Kushamarmada Gandhavamanayo Ramang Tadvirda Idire Tada. So he's describing the scene, basically. That's what's happening. And there's some translation underneath here, which I can read. Right, these are the Sanskrit verse translations I've just mentioned. Lord Balaram stayed in Vrindavan for the 2 months of spring, Madhava and Madhu, in order to give solace to the cowherd girlfriends who were feeling separation from Krishna, as well as to give pleasure to another group of cowherd girlfriends, right? So there were 2 groups of girlfriends. One were his, who he was giving pleasure to, but Krishna was enjoying through that. And then he was also giving some solace to the other cowherd girls who were maybe separate from Krishna and suffering. And then by engaging in that leela, they get some remembrance. And then through that remembrance, they're not feeling so much separation. So here you can see verse 26, which is the one at the top of the page, I mentioned here, Purna Chandra, so we have the translations. In a beautiful garden by the banks of the river Jamuna, bathed in the rays of the full moon, Balaram gave pleasure to his group of cowherd girlfriends, as the air was filled with gentle breezes with the fragrance of night-blooming lotuses. Then the next verses. As the Gandharvas sang his glories, Lord Balaram enjoyed within the brilliant circle of young women. He appeared just like Indra's elephant, the lordly Airavat, enjoying in the company of she-elephants. At that time, kettle drums resounded in the sky, the Gandharvas joyfully rained down flowers, and the great sages praised Lord Balaram's heroic deeds. The great sages generally consider those who consort with many women in this way to be offenders. However, those same sages compose prayers glorifying these pastimes of Lord Balaram, right? So the purity of these leelas, of these pastimes and these personalities is without question. And we need to always remember our mind cannot understand what they're doing. If we meditate on what they're doing, we will go into lust. We will go into everything of this world because we're projecting our attention here at this time. But for these personalities, having thousands of girlfriends, there is no touch of impurity in that. It's perfectly pure. During this pastimes, the demigods came there to deliver a shower of flowers in worship of Lord Balaram and his consorts. And they saw no difference between Balaram and Krishna and their pastimes with their cowherd girlfriends. So demigods come showering flowers. All these things are happening as part of these pastimes. Okay. Jai Shri Sangha Monigane Korinan Indan Tarara Mera Rase Korinan Stavan Jara se deve asi pushpa vrishti kore deve jane bed nahi Krishna haladare. So that those two verses was the translation I just read. Right? Ye Shri Songe. So with those girls, Munigane, the sages, may say, oh, there's some fault. Nindan means some fault. Right? Sadhu Ninda, blaspheming devotees. Or Ninda to the name, right? Not respecting the name properly. We see this in the lists of offences. So those verses, the translation was there below. Right, so we'll just do these last three, and this is where we're up to so far. We'll get to verse 33 today. Chari Vede Gupta Balaramera Charita Amiki Balibo Sob Purane Vidita. So he's saying here that the glories of Balaram and his stories and pastimes, Charita, are hidden Gupta within the Vedas, Chariveda. The Chariveda, they don't really talk a lot about Balaram, right? How great he is generally hidden from the Vedas, right? Lots of talk about the Supreme, but the Supreme Brother, maybe not so much talked. But if you go inside, you can find, because it's there, it's Gupta. Gupta means hidden, present but hidden. So you need to go deep inside and then you can find. Ami ki bolibo. Bolibo means bolbo, means I will say. Ami ki bolbo. What will I say? What can I say? What can I say about how great are the glories and stories of Balaram? The Puranas know. So go and see the Puranas. Right, so here also there's a bit of a difference between the Vedas and the Puranas. Right, the Vedas is hiding things more so. The Puranas maybe a bit more exposure, a bit more presentation. Because we say like Srimad Bhagavatam is called a Purana, Bhagavat Purana. Right, it's a commentary on the Veda. It's giving extrapolations and explanations, not just direct Veda. Because you go to the Vedas directly, often it's very confusing what to do. That's why the Puranas are there to give some explanations so you can extrapolate out how to apply Vedic knowledge correctly in the time, the place, the circumstance, or whatever's happening for you at the time. Murka doshe keho keho nadeki purane Purana Balarama rasa krita korya pramana. Right, so it's a great fault, Murka doshe. To not look at the Puranas' descriptions and to see just how great is Balaram's Rasa Leela, right? And the truth about how great it is. That's being shown by Bhagavat Purana. So to not look at that is a great fault. Ektai dui by Gopika Samaje, Karilena Rasa Krita Vrindavana Maje. And so here he kind of ties the whole thing together and says, in this way, both Krishna and Balaram are playing with their girlfriends in their rasa kritas, their rasa leelas, within Majhe, in the middle of Vrindavan, right? So within Vrindavan, you will find both these Rasa Kritas happening. Krishna's one and Balaram's, and they're both playing with their Gopika Samaji. Samaj means group. So their group of gopis. They both have these. Dui Bai, the two brothers both have groups of gopis, and they're doing these activities. So yeah, this is some of the glories of Balaram, which Vrindavan Das Thakur initiates the work as saying, well, Balaram, Nityananda, this is important to worship him, glorify him. He is my Gurudev. He is the one who is Spure, manifesting and distributing the glories of Chaitanya in this world. So first of all, I'm going to speak about his glories, and in that way, Mahaprabhu will be sahai, will be satisfied. And if Mahaprabhu is pleased and satisfied, then we can be sure we're going to get a good result, a good outcome for our spiritual endeavor. So we'll leave the class here for today, and we will pick this up, verse 34, we'll pick this up next time. And we'll continue through this first chapter of the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. All glories to Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, the composer of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. All glories to Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Glories to Sri Guru Varga, Vishnu Pajla Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj, Vishnu Pajla Bhakti Rakshak Shrita Dev Goswami Maharaj, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mod, and all the Guru Varga in our line. Jai Shri Gurudev.